everybody. Today we'll be reading Chapter 1 of the Jamestown Colony Disaster by Marcia Amidon Lusted. Chapter 1: A New Start. On December 20th, 1606, 3 ships sailed from England. Aboard them were a total of 105 men. The men were traveling to Virginia in the New World. Once they arrived, they would establish a settlement there. These explorers were funded by investors of London's Virginia Company. They hoped to find precious gold, silver, and other raw materials to send back to England. The group arrived in Virginia in April 1607. One man had died on the journey. The first task for the remaining 104 men was to choose a site for their new home. By May 1607, they had found a location. It was 60 miles from the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. The land was surrounded by water on 3 sides. The water was deep enough to moor their ships. The Spanish had already set up settlements in the New World. This location would be easy to defend against Spanish invasions. It also did not have any existing American Indian settlements. The explorers named the new settlement Jamestown after their king, James I. It would become the first permanent English settlement in North America. Here's a picture of King James I, who Jamestown was named after. And this picture is labeled, "Men from England arrived in Virginia in April 1607. The site of Jamestown and the entire region of Virginia was not just an empty land. American Indians, including the Powhatan, lived in the area. The Powhatan Confederacy was a group of 6 tribes. This strong alliance also had influence over about 24 other tribes in the region. The area was also home to the Monacan. They were enemies of the Powhatan. The Powhatan called the land Sinakamoko. This translates as densely inhabited land. And it was. By the time the English settlers arrived, one supreme chief, also called Powhatan, ruled the area. Through alliances, he had increased the size of Sinakamoko. It was about 8,000 square miles. 14,000 people lived there. Most of the Powhatan lived in small villages of several hundred people. The settlers wanted to avoid upsetting Powhatan and his people, so they picked a site for Jamestown away from the other villages. But the Powhatan had a good reason not to use this land for a village. The site was marshy. There was no fresh water. Mosquitoes infested the area. It was, however, the Powhatan's traditional hunting land. The American Indians first viewed the English settlers with suspicion. Earlier Spanish explorers had been hostile. The Powhatan attacked the first landing party of Jamestown settlers, but later they offered the English cornbread and other gifts. Chief Powhatan wanted the settlers to join the other communities. Some of the settlers saw the Powhatan as potential trading partners. They hoped to trade for food. Others wanted to use American Indians as slaves and workers. Here we can see a map of the area where Jamestown was created. We have the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay. This river goes up, the James River has Jamestown on it. Here we can see it's labeled Virginia. And here's a compass showing us which way is north, west, east, and south. This picture is labeled. Members of the Powhatan tribes may have watched the settlers as they built the Jamestown fort. After choosing the site, the settlers got to work building their settlement. They unloaded tools and supplies. They began clearing trees. They also opened a secret list of orders from the Virginia Company's Royal Council. It gave the names of men chosen for the settlement's new ruling council. Christopher Newport had been chosen as the admiral of the expedition. The other leaders included Edward Wingfield, Bartholomew Gosnold, and John Smith. The settlement was finished by June 15th, 1607. It was triangular in shape. Its log fence surrounded a storehouse, church, and houses. At the corners were raised platforms for cannons. They would be used to defend against attacks. Here you can see a diagram of the Jamestown fort in 1607. Here's the compass again. We can see that the swamp is labeled. Here's a guide telling us which numbers correspond to what. You can see the church. Number 2 is the marketplace. 3 shows the storehouses. 4, the street of houses. 5, the principal entrance, which was the south gate. And 6 shows the other gates. Here the James River is also labeled. This picture is labeled. It shows the fence surrounding the Jamestown fort has been recreated for visitors. It seemed that the settlers were off to a good start. In a report sent back to London, the council wrote, "Within less than 7 weeks, we are fortified well against the Indians. We have sown a good store of wheat. We have built some houses. We have spared some hands for exploration." But things had already started to go badly. The settlers' relationship with the Powhatan was strained. The English settlers often stole what they wanted instead of trading. The Powhatan fought back with attacks on people and crops. The settlers would soon discover that being poor neighbors led to trouble. Here's another picture showing the fort. It's labeled, "The Jamestown Fort gave the settlers some protection from the wilderness surrounding them." Next time, I'll be reading Chapter 2, Poor Neighbors. Thanks for reading.